from Bette's Makes, and today we're going to do a heat iron-on transfer using dark material transfer paper, and it'll really make a difference in how vibrant the colors are when it comes to any of the shirts that you make. Now I'm using a light material with a nice bright cherry red design. I am using my logo in this particular project, and we're going to learn how to iron it on. You need very few materials for this. You need parchment paper, you need some cardstock, a pad to iron on, a material like for example this apron, or you could use a t-shirt with some polyester in it. 100% cotton will also work, but with a little bit of polyester it seems to work a little better. And an EasyPress, and away you go. We're going to have a lot of fun with this. And one last thing before we get started on this project, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. We are starting to make a lot more videos, so if you subscribe, you will never be left out from what's coming up next. So let's get going. Hello. We're going to be making this project. We're going to be putting a logo, in this case it happens to be my logo, onto an apron so that when I do some filming, I have my own branded apron when I'm about to talk to anyone or show a new video. So this is going to be a lot of fun. What we're going to do is we're going to iron on the logo. So initially, I put the logo in here. This was simply an uploaded file. I'll click upload here. As you can see, I had an uploaded file which I added, and I'll just click on insert images so that you'll see that the logo was larger when I first brought it in. I measured on my apron to see what size I needed, and I found that the size that worked best was a width of 5 inches. And in this case the height would be around 2.5 inches. So those were the perfect size. I'm going to get rid of this extra one that I don't need right now. Now I have put 3 on here because I have 2 aprons that I'm going to make, but the paper for the transfer is 8.5 by 11, so I found that 3 logos would fit perfectly on that. Now for this case, doesn't make any difference whether I have a light apron or a dark one. I am going to be using the dark t-shirt transfer sheets. I have found that those work a lot better. I don't have to reverse images when I'm doing it. All I need to do is print it on an inkjet printer, bring it back to my Cricut machine, and have it cut it into the appropriate size. From there, I will show you exactly how we iron it on. It is very simple. First thing you need, of course, is your image, which we see here. I am going to click on Make It. I have already saved it. I am using my Maker today, and we're going to click on Make It. Now when I go to Make It, you'll see that the 3 images fit on perfectly on this 8.5 by 11 sheet. And you'll see the line around it. That means those are the registration marks for when I bring my printed sheet back to my Cricut Maker. It will be able to find the images and cut them out appropriately. So I'm simply going to click on Continue. And the first thing it's going to say is send it to the printer. Just to show you what happens here, I'm going to click on Already Printed. It connects to my Maker machine here, and pretty soon you're going to see that I have to select the type of material I want to print this on. And of course, as I said before, it's a dark t-shirt transfer sheet that I am going to be using. Now it is still trying to connect. Just make sure everything's set up and it will connect. Should only take a second or two. You can hear it making noises behind me. And here we go. It says set the material. Now, last thing I had used was holographic sparkle. I am going to browse all materials, and I'm going to put in transfer and search. Now I have heat transfer, non-Cricut, I have infusible ink, transfer, and transfer sheet. I am going to select the transfer sheet. But before I do that, I want to then go back and I want to show you all the different materials that we have here. You'll see that we have artboards, cardstock, fabric, tons of different types of fabric. We have polyesters, velour, we have felt, we have foam, we have foil material, and here we have the iron-on. Now, as I mentioned, I am using the dark iron-on, and we should be able to find it here in the list. Printable iron-on dark. That's exactly what we want to choose, not just the transfer sheet that we had chosen. So let's choose the dark, and let's remove that one. Everything looks okay here. So I'm just going to close this. Printable iron-on dark. So that's the one we're going to use. Make sure that you have it set correctly. Printable iron-on dark. And now we're going to click on the machine itself. It should have a flashing light here with the double arrows to load the mat and load the fine point blade into clamp B, which I already have. So I am ready to cut it out. Now I'll see you shortly, right after it's completed. My logo is now printed on an inkjet printer, and you'll see that there are the 3 different logos here. Now I'm going to add it to my Cricut machine, and it's going to cut out each small piece. And once we have done that cutting, then we'll come back right here and we'll start putting things together by turning on the heat press and working on the apron itself. So here we are. We've printed out our logo design and we're ready to remove the outside part of it and then put items onto our apron. Right now I'm just going to move this out of the way because I want to make sure that our apron is prepared. Now the one I have here right now looks a little bit wrinkled, so I want to make sure that I iron it flat first, and then I'm going to take my lint roller and push it over from there. Now I'm just going to bring this one in a little bit so you can see the temperature. I am heating up my iron up to 315 degrees, so you'll know that this iron is way hotter than you could do it by hand. So the first thing I want to do is flatten out this area just to make sure I don't have a lot of wrinkles and creases in there. So I'm just using it like a regular iron right now, just to get rid of those creases. And that's starting to look pretty good. We are up to temperature, and just remember you need to keep this in the cradle because it is extremely hot. Now I have a few wrinkles, but not too bad. You notice one of the things I've done is I've added a piece of paper here. Actually I've got a couple here so that anything going through won't bleed through and end up on my pad. Now you're going to need a pad that keeps things fairly flat. Now just before we get going on this, we are going to use our lint brush just to remove anything extra. Now I've got a lint brush I bought at the dollar store, and I'm simply just going to go over the area. Just make sure you don't have any extra lint, and then I'm going to put my cover back on my lint brush so I don't gather lint from everywhere else. And we'll put that aside. So now we're getting ready in order to do the transfer. Now I'm just going to move this out of the way while we take a look at our design. I still have it here on top of my mat. I'm going to take away all what I call the negative parts. Simply going to pull these away, make sure everything is good. Really stretches as you pull it away. And gently so you don't ruin anything. Now be careful with the extra paper, because when I pull it off, it can crumble quite a bit. Now it's already been through the printer. I'm simply going to take this and throw it into my waste bucket. Now we have all of these designs ready to go. First thing I want to do is I want to release the whole piece, including the backing, right from my Cricut sheet, and the easiest way to do that is I hold it face down and I pull the sheet away. And that's supposed to stop any extra curling. So I'll just move my sheet out of the way. So the next thing I want to do is I want to take my scissors and I'm going to cut out these smaller areas. My scissors over here. So I don't want any extras around. So we're going to start with one apron. So I will just cut around this one area, remove any excess that I'm not going to be using. Rid of some from the top. There we go. And I'll put the other piece aside, put our scissors aside, and throw our waste. Now I have one piece that I want to put on the apron. Now you'll notice that it is facing up, so when I peel the back off, I'm going to want to place it exactly how we need it. Now put my pad back. Remember, I have the piece of paper in here just so I don't ruin my pad. Next thing I want to do is I want to place the apron in place here. Now this is a 65% polyester apron. I also know that my design is about 5 inches wide, so I want to try and center it as much as possible. I didn't want a huge one here, so it looks pretty good right there. So now I'm going to carefully peel the back away. Now this is the harder part. You can use tools if you need to. This one is a fairly simple design. Just hold on to it gently and peel the backing away. Remove that. Now I'm going to place it exactly where I want it. Now to me that looks pretty straight, and I kind of like that placement. Now in order for me to iron on top of it, I'm going to need a piece of paper. Now it's recommended I could use either parchment paper, or I can take butcher paper and put over top. Now I've already used this piece, so it's pretty wrinkly. I'm going to get another piece of parchment paper, and I will simply cut out a piece approximately the size I need. And I'm going to cover it over top. Now you can still see the design through. You want to make sure it's nice and flat, and that looks perfect. Now I'm going to bring over my EasyPress. Right now it is set, if you can't quite see it, it is set for 350 degrees for 30 seconds. Now I'm going to bring it over on top of my design. I'm going to click on the little C here, and it's going to count down. Now I'm going to iron it in place, and the reason I'm doing that is I do have these selvages over here that will create a problem and won't allow it to adhere straight. Now I need to do this 3 times because the manufacturer of the Taylor Dark T-shirt transfer recommends 45 to 50 seconds, and I find quite often that they're not quite that accurate, so I always add another 30 seconds. Now I am ironing it by going back and forth. I am not exposing the decal itself, because if I did that then we would lose some of the heat. Now it's already clicked once. I'm going to click it again, and then I'm going to do it a 3rd time, and I'm just ironing it on. As you can see, I just want to make sure that we press it on, and it is parchment paper I use, not butcher paper. I found the butcher paper does not work as well because it has a coated surface. Now, parchment paper can be purchased at the dollar store, so you don't have to spend a lot of money on it. And we're going for a third one here. And you want to make this a simple project. Now remember, it's the dark t-shirt transfer paper that we want to use. I find that the light one, it doesn't come off as well as it should, and it is done in reverse mirror mode, which makes it a little more complicated, whereas this goes directly on as long as you put the parchment paper in place. Now, this looks like we're completely finished. I'm going to move it to its safety tray. I'm actually going to power it off. It's going to take a while to cool down. Now let's take a look and see what we have here. If I put my hands above this, this is quite hot. I'm just going to remove the parchment paper, set it aside, and you see that this came out beautifully. There's no problem, there's no wrinkles in it, and it is set just the way I want it. So this is a fun way to make decals. Now I simply used my logo. You could use a design of your own to do exactly the same thing. Now I design mine in Illustrator and then bring them into Design Space. It's something you could consider for yourself as well. You can also design them in Canva and bring them in as PNG files and then add them to Design Space. But this way works perfectly. It is simple, parchment paper. I bought this apron at Hobby Lobby for $5.99. I bought the transfer paper at Michael's, and I used a coupon with it, so it cost me about $12 for 10 sheets of transfer paper. So that's fairly inexpensive. Underneath, of course, I had just some plain paper that was to protect my pad. Important issue here is you must use a pad because it evens out the surface. You don't get any lumps or bumps that way. If you use a towel, it's going to give you a different result. But right now, I'm extremely pleased with what we have, and it's a perfect project, so let's give it a shot. Well, I hope you really enjoyed this project. I know the design is fairly simple. It's my logo. I designed it in Illustrator and brought it into Design Space in order to print it and then apply it to this apron. I had a lot of fun with this, and it's so easy to do. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I do. And just a reminder, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, you can visit my blog, betsmakes.com, for a lot more tutorials, and my resource library for all kinds of downloadables, including templates, patterns, and cut files. So until next time, I'm Bette from Bette's Makes.